The stars had never looked so threatening to Captain Jake Morrison as they did today. He stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant, watching the long-range sensors display 47 massive alien ships moving toward Earth's solar system. Each vessel was the size of a small moon, dark metal hulls bristling with weapons that could melt planets. Morrison had seen many battles in his 20 years with the Terran Defense Force, but nothing like this. "Captain, the alien fleet will reach our position in 6 hours," said Lieutenant Commander Lisa Hayes from her station at Communications. Her voice was steady, but Morrison could see the worry in her eyes. Everyone on the bridge knew they were facing impossible odds. One human ship against an entire alien armada. The USS Defiant was humanity's newest warship, built with technology that pushed the limits of human science. Unlike the bulky alien vessels approaching them, the Defiant was sleek and fast, only 300 meters long. Its hull gleamed with a strange blue-black metal that seemed to bend light around it. Most of Earth's population didn't even know ships like this existed. "Any word from Earth Command?" Morrison asked. "Negative, sir." "We're on our own out here," replied Hayes. Morrison nodded. They had always known this day might come. For 50 years, humanity had been preparing for first contact with alien life. They had hoped it would be peaceful. The approaching fleet suggested otherwise. Chief Engineer Danny Ross looked up from his console. "Captain, all systems are green. The quantum deflection grid is ready, and our main weapon is fully charged." Ross was a small man with graying hair, but he knew the Defiant's experimental systems better than anyone alive. Navigator Amy Clark tracked the alien fleet's movement on her displays. "Sir, they're maintaining formation. No sign of any attempt at communication." She paused, studying the data. "Captain, these ships are huge. Our sensors show each one carries enough firepower to destroy a city." Morrison walked to the center of the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with calm efficiency. These men and women were the best humanity had to offer, chosen for this mission because they could stay cool under pressure. They would need that skill today. "Weapons Officer Ryan Cole, what's our status?" Morrison asked. Cole, a young man with steady hands and sharp eyes, checked his console. "All weapon systems online, Captain. The dimensional cannon is charged and ready. We have 12 quantum torpedoes." "Loaded." Morrison had read the classified reports about the Defiant's weapons. The dimensional cannon existed partially in another reality, allowing it to bypass normal defenses. The quantum torpedoes could tear holes in space itself. Humanity had spent decades developing technology that defied the laws of physics as other species understood them. "Sir, incoming transmission from the alien fleet," Hayes announced. "Put it on screen." The main display flickered, showing the bridge of the lead alien ship. The creature that appeared was tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. When it spoke, the universal translator converted its words into English. "I am Admiral Zixthan of the Cathari Empire. You pilot a ship in our territory. Your species is unknown to us, but that matters little. You will surrender your vessel and submit to the Empire, or we will destroy you and claim your world for ourselves." Morrison stepped forward. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Terran Defense Force. You are in human space and you are not welcome here. Turn your ships around and leave, or face the consequences." The alien admiral made a sound that might have been laughter. "Human. Another primitive species thinks it can challenge the might of the Cathari Empire. We have conquered 47 worlds. Your single ship means nothing to us. Then you haven't been paying attention to who you're dealing with," Morrison replied calmly. Admiral Zixthan's expression grew cold. "You have 1 hour to surrender. After that, we will demonstrate why the galaxy fears our name." The transmission ended. Morrison turned to his crew. "You heard him. 1 hour to prepare. Danny, I want all systems at maximum efficiency. Amy, calculate evasive patterns in case we need them. Ryan, target their lead ships, but don't fire until I give the order. Medical Mar." Officer Dr. Kate Sullivan spoke from her station near the back of the bridge. "Captain, I'm reading biosigns from the alien ships. Their crew members show typical patterns for a warrior species. High aggression, low empathy. They've probably never faced real resistance before. Good to know, Morrison said. Lisa, send a message to Earth. Tell them what's happening here. If something goes wrong, they need to be ready. Hayes nodded and began transmitting the message through quantum channels that would reach Earth instantly. Intelligence Officer Greg Walsh pulled up data on his screens. Sir, our deep space probes have been tracking this fleet for weeks. They've destroyed 3 inhabited systems on their way here. No survivors, no negotiations. They just attack and take what they want. Morrison felt a cold anger building inside him. These aliens had killed billions of innocent people. Now they wanted to add Earth to their list of conquered worlds. That was not going to happen. Captain, Amy Clark said, the alien fleet is changing formation. They're spreading out in attack pattern. On the main screen, the 47 ships moved into a perfect battle formation, surrounding the tiny human vessel. Each alien ship was 50 times larger than the Defiant. Their weapons powered up, creating an ominous red glow across their hulls. Looks like they're not waiting the full hour, Morrison observed. Ryan Cole's hands hovered over his weapons controls. Orders, sir? Morrison looked around at his crew. These brave men and women were about to make history. They were humanity's first line of defense against an alien empire that had never tasted defeat. The outcome of this battle would determine whether Earth remained free or became another conquered world. All hands. This is the captain, Morrison announced over the ship's communication system. In a few minutes, we're going to show these aliens what humans are made of. Remember your training, trust your equipment, and remember that everyone on Earth is counting on us. The alien fleet completed its formation. Weapon systems across 47 ships charged to full power. In the distance, Earth's sun shone peacefully, unaware that the fate of humanity was about to be decided in the cold darkness of space. Morrison sat in his command chair and waited for the aliens to make their move. Admiral Zixton studied the small human ship on his tactical display with growing irritation. In 300 years of military service, he had never encountered such arrogance from an inferior species. The tiny vessel sat motionless in space, surrounded by 47 Cathari warships, yet showed no signs of fear or surrender. Commander Veltar, what do our sensors tell us about this human ship? The Admiral asked his science officer. Veltar checked his readings carefully. Admiral, the vessel is small but built with unknown materials. Our scans cannot penetrate its hull completely. However, its size suggests limited weapons and defensive capabilities. Excellent. We will make an example of these humans. Other species will hear of their destruction and surrender more quickly. Zixthan turned to his weapons officer. Target the human ship with 12 heavy plasma cannons. Use enough power to vaporize it completely, but not so much that we cannot study the wreckage. Across the Cathari fleet, weapon systems that had destroyed countless worlds powered up to firing level. The plasma cannons were the Empire's most feared weapons, capable of melting through any known armor or defensive shield. No ship had ever survived a concentrated barrage from even one heavy plasma cannon, much less 12. On the USS Defiant, Chief Engineer Danny Ross watched his instruments as energy readings spiked across the alien fleet. Captain, they're charging weapons, massive power buildup on 12 of their ships. Captain Morrison remained calm in his command chair. How long until they fire? 30 seconds, sir. Navigator Amy Clark ran calculations on her console. Captain, even at maximum speed, we can't outrun their targeting systems. Those weapons will track us anywhere we go. Morrison nodded. We're not running. Danny, prepare the quantum deflection grid, full power. Ross's fingers flew across his controls, activating systems that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. Quantum deflection grid online, Captain. All field generators are at maximum output. Weapons Officer Ryan Cole tracked the alien weapons as they reached full charge. Sir, they're about to fire. Multiple plasma beams incoming. Steady, everyone, Morrison said quietly. Trust the technology. Admiral Zixton watched with satisfaction as his weapons officer reported ready status across all 12 heavy plasma cannons. The human ship still had not moved or attempted to defend itself. Perhaps these humans were frozen with fear. Fire, the Admiral commanded. 12 beams of superheated plasma erupted from the Cathari ships, each one carrying enough energy to boil an ocean. The beams converged on the tiny human ship with perfect accuracy. In seconds, the USS Defiant should have been reduced to scattered atoms. Instead, something impossible happened. The plasma beams approached the Defiant at the speed of light, but as they reached the ship, they began to curve away. Space itself seemed to bend around the human vessel, redirecting the deadly energy harmlessly into the void. The beams that should have destroyed the ship simply flowed around it like water around a stone. On the Defiant's bridge, the crew watched their screens show the alien attack being deflected with perfect efficiency. The quantum deflection grid was working exactly as designed, manipulating space-time to create gravitational fields that redirected incoming energy. "Direct hit, sir," Ryan Cole reported with a slight smile. Or rather, direct miss. Morrison allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. "Excellent work, Danny. The deflection grid performed perfectly." Ross wiped sweat from his forehead. "Thank you, sir. Though I have to admit, this is the first real test we've had of the system." Dr. Kate Sullivan monitored the bio readings from the alien ships. "Captain, I'm detecting massive spikes in stress hormones across their fleet. Heart rates are elevated. They're experiencing shock and confusion. On the Cathari flagship, chaos erupted across the bridge. Officers shouted reports that made no sense according to everything they knew about physics and warfare." "Admiral, our weapons had no effect," the weapons officer stammered. "The plasma beams were deflected somehow. The human ship is completely undamaged." Commander Veltar frantically rechecked his sensor readings. "This is impossible. No known shield technology can redirect plasma beams like that. It's as if they're manipulating gravity itself." Admiral Zixthon stared at the human ship in disbelief. In 3 centuries of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. The Cathari Empire's most powerful weapons had been rendered completely useless by technology he couldn't even understand. "Fire again," he ordered. "All ships, everything we have." Across the alien fleet, every weapon system powered up simultaneously. Plasma cannons, particle beams, fusion missiles, and gravity bombs all prepared to fire at once. The combined firepower was enough to crack a moon in half. On the Defiant, Amy Clark monitored the massive energy buildup. "Captain, the entire fleet is preparing to fire. Energy readings are off the charts." Morrison studied the tactical display. 47 ships were about to unleash everything they had at his single vessel. It was time to show these aliens that humanity was not defenseless. "Danny, can the deflection grid handle that much firepower?" "Yes, sir. The grid can redirect any energy-based attack regardless of intensity." "Good. Ryan, prepare our main weapon. Target the empty space between their ships." Cole's eyes widened slightly. "Sir, you want me to fire at empty space?" "Trust me, Mr. Cole. Lock onto coordinates directly between their lead ships and prepare to fire the dimensional cannon." Intelligence Officer Greg Walsh looked up from his analysis. "Captain, if we fire at that location with a dimensional weapon, the subspace shockwave will disable every system in their fleet simultaneously." "Exactly," Morrison replied. "We're going to end this battle with one shot, but we're not going to kill anyone." The alien fleet fired everything at once. Hundreds of energy beams, missiles, and exotic weapons converged on the USS Defiant in the largest concentrated attack in Cathari military history. The combined firepower should have been enough to destroy a small planet. Once again, the impossible happened. Every single weapon was deflected harmlessly away from the human ship. The Defiant sat untouched in the middle of the largest fireworks display in galactic history, completely protected by its quantum deflection grid. Admiral Zixathan watched, in horror as his entire fleet's weapons proved useless against the small human vessel. For the first time in his military career, he began to feel something he had never experienced before: fear. Morrison stood up from his command chair. "Mr. Cole, fire the dimensional cannon." Ryan Cole pressed the firing control with steady hands. The dimensional cannon, humanity's most advanced weapon, discharged its energy into the empty space between the alien ships. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then reality itself began to tear apart. A small rift opened in space-time, no larger than a basketball. From this tiny hole, Waves of exotic energy poured out, spreading through subspace faster than light. The quantum torpedo exploded not in normal space, but in the dimension where all electronic systems drew their power. The effect was immediate and devastating. Across 47 Cathari warships, every weapon system shut down instantly. Power, grids failed. Shield generators went offline. Navigation computers crashed. In the span of 3 seconds, the most feared fleet in the galaxy became nothing more than drifting metal hulks. Admiral Zixthan watched his flagship's bridge go dark. Around him, emergency lighting flickered on, casting red shadows across the faces of his terrified crew. Status reports flooded in from every ship in the fleet, all saying the same impossible thing. "Admiral, all weapons are offline," his weapons officer reported, his voice shaking. "Main power is down to 15%, shields are completely gone." Commander Veltar worked frantically at his science station, trying to understand what had happened. "Sir, the human weapon didn't hit any of our ships directly. They fired at empty space, but somehow disabled our entire fleet." "How is that possible?" Zixthan demanded. "I don't know, Admiral. They appear to have weaponized dimensional physics. The energy pulse traveled through subspace and overloaded our power systems from the inside." On the USS Defiant, the crew watched their tactical displays show the results of their single shot. 47 enemy ships, each one capable of destroying worlds, had been rendered helpless in an instant. Chief Engineer Danny Ross monitored the alien fleet's power signatures. "Captain, their main systems are offline, but life support is still functioning. We disabled their weapons without killing anyone." Medical Officer Dr. Kate Sullivan studied the bio readings from the enemy ships. "Sir, I'm detecting extreme fear responses across their entire fleet. Heart rates are through the roof. Some of their crew members appear to be in shock." Captain Morrison walked to the center of the bridge, studying the tactical situation. His single ship had just defeated an entire alien armada without firing a single shot at them directly. The demonstration of power was complete, but now came the more important part. "Lisa, open a channel to the alien fleet." Lieutenant Commander Lisa Hayes worked at her communications console. "Channel open, sir." Morrison's voice carried across space to every ship in the Cathari fleet. His tone was calm and professional, but carried the weight of absolute authority. "Admiral Zixthan, your fleet has been disabled. Your weapons are offline, your shields are down, and your ships are defenseless. However, I want you to notice something important. Your crews are alive, your life support systems are functioning. We could have destroyed every ship in your fleet, but we chose not to." On the alien flagship, Admiral Zixthan listened to the human captain's words with growing amazement. The humans had demonstrated power beyond anything in Cathari military doctrine, but they had shown mercy. Morrison continued his transmission. "You came here to conquer Earth and enslave humanity. You told us we had 1 hour to surrender or face destruction. Instead, you face a choice. Leave our space immediately and never return, or discover what our weapons can do when we don't show." Restraint. Intelligence Officer Greg Walsh pulled up data on the alien fleet's current status. "Captain, their ships are beginning to restore minimal power. They should have enough engine capability to leave our solar system within 6 hours." Navigator Amy Clark tracked the positions of all 47 alien vessels. "Sir, some of their ships are already turning away from Earth. They're preparing to retreat." On the Cathari flagship, panic spread through the bridge as officers realized the full implications of their situation. The humans had not only defeated them, but had done so while holding back their true power. "Admiral," Commander Veltar said, quietly, "we must consider the tactical situation. They disabled our entire fleet with one shot that didn't even target us directly. If they had wanted to destroy us, we would already be dead." Zixthan stared at the human ship on his display. It was so small compared to his massive warships, yet it had proven more powerful than his entire fleet combined. The humans could have annihilated every Cathari vessel in seconds, but they had chosen to show mercy instead. In Cathari culture, mercy was the greatest sign of strength. Only those with absolute power could afford to spare their enemies. The humans had demonstrated that they possessed technology so advanced that the Empire's greatest fleet posed no threat to them whatsoever. "Sir," the communications officer called out, We're receiving surrender signals from 17 of our ships. They're requesting permission to withdraw from human space. Admiral Zixthon felt shame wash over him. His fleet, which had conquered dozens of worlds without mercy, was being shown compassion by the very species they had come to destroy. The humans were demonstrating a level of nobility that Cathari military doctrine could not explain. On the USS Defiant, Dr. Sullivan continued, monitoring the bio-readings from the alien ships. Captain, I'm detecting something interesting. The aliens' stress levels are dropping. I think they're beginning to understand that we're not going to kill them. Morrison nodded. Good. The message is getting through. Weapons Officer Ryan Cole studied his tactical display. Sir, should I keep our main weapon charged? No, Mr. Cole. Power down all weapon systems. We've made our point. Chief Engineer Danny Ross looked surprised. Captain, powering down our weapons with a hostile fleet nearby goes against standard protocols. Morrison smiled slightly. Danny, that fleet isn't hostile anymore. They're scared. There's a difference. Lieutenant Commander Hayes received another transmission from the alien fleet. Captain, Admiral Zixthan is requesting permission to speak with you directly. Put him through. The alien admiral's image appeared on the main screen. His proud bearing had been replaced by something Morrison had never expected to see: humility. Captain Morrison, Zixthan began, his voice carefully controlled. I have spent 3 centuries conquering worlds for the Cathari Empire. I have never encountered a species with your level of technological advancement. Morrison remained silent, letting the alien continue. You had the power to destroy my entire fleet, yet you chose to disable our ships instead of killing my crews. In Cathari culture, such mercy can only be shown by those with absolute confidence in their superiority. We're not superior, Morrison replied. We're just different. We don't conquer other species. We defend ourselves when necessary. Zixthan processed this statement with visible confusion. A species with such advanced technology that chose not to conquer others was completely outside his experience. Captain, I formally request safe passage for my fleet to leave your space. We will not return. Morrison studied the alien admiral for a long moment. Permission granted, Admiral. Take your ships and go home. Tell your empire what happened here, today. The transmission ended, and Morrison turned to his crew. They had just won humanity's first interstellar war without firing a shot at the enemy. Admiral Zixthan stood in his damaged command center, watching his communications officer coordinate the most humiliating retreat in Cathari military history. Around him, his bridge crew worked to restore basic systems while maintaining the absolute silence that had fallen over the fleet after their encounter with the human warship. Admiral, Commander Veltar reported quietly, 38 ships have restored minimum engine power. The remaining 9 vessels will need another 2 hours before they can achieve faster-than-light travel. Zixthan nodded without looking away from his tactical display, where the small human ship continued to patrol nearby. The USS Defiant showed no signs of aggression, but its presence served as a constant reminder of how completely the Cathari fleet had been outmatched. Sir, we're receiving multiple requests from ship commanders asking for guidance, his communications officer added. Many of them are requesting permission to send formal surrender messages to the humans. The admiral felt his heart sink further. In 300 years of military service, he had never witnessed such a complete collapse of Cathari military pride. His captains, warriors who had conquered 17 star systems, were begging to surrender to a single enemy vessel. Tell them to maintain communications silence and prepare for departure as soon as all ships are ready, Zixthan ordered. On the USS Defiant, Captain Morrison reviewed the reports from his crew as they monitored the alien fleet's recovery efforts. The Cathari ships were slowly restoring power, but their movements showed no signs of renewed aggression. If anything, they seemed eager to leave human space as quickly as possible. Captain, Intelligence Officer Greg Walsh said, I'm intercepting communications between the alien ships. They're not just planning to retreat, they're broadcasting detailed reports about our capabilities to their home fleet. Morrison considered this information carefully. What kind of details? Everything, sir. Our defensive capabilities, our weapons technology, even estimates of how many ships like the Defiant we might have hidden throughout the solar system. Dr. Kate Sullivan looked up from her bio-monitoring station. Captain, the psychological profiles I'm reading from their crews show something interesting. They're not just afraid of us, they're showing signs of what I can only describe as respect. Respect, Morrison asked. In their culture, apparently, showing mercy to a defeated enemy is considered the ultimate display of power. By not destroying them when we could have, we've demonstrated a level of strength that their military doctrine has no answer for. Navigator Amy Clark tracked the alien ships as they slowly organized into departure formation. Sir, it looks like they're really leaving. No signs of any attempt to regroup or plan another attack. Morrison walked to the main view screen where Earth hung peacefully in the distance. His homeworld had no idea how close it had come to conquest, or how dramatically the balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted. Lisa, any word from Earth Command? Lieutenant Commander Hayes checked her communications console. Yes, sir. They're requesting a full report on the situation. Admiral Peterson wants to know if we need reinforcements. Tell him the situation is under control. The alien fleet is withdrawing. Chief Engineer Danny Ross finished his diagnostic of the ship's systems. Captain, all our equipment performed perfectly. The quantum deflection grid handled their entire fleet's firepower without any strain, and the dimensional cannon worked exactly as designed. Morrison nodded, but his attention was focused on something more important than technology. Danny, what do you think happens next? When word of this spreads through the galaxy? Ross considered the question carefully. Sir, I think we just announced to the entire galaxy that humanity is not to be underestimated. On the Cathari flagship, Admiral Zixthon received the report he had been dreading. His science officer had completed a full analysis of the human weapons and defensive systems, and the results were even more disturbing than he had feared. Admiral, based on our sensor readings, the human ship appears to be using technology that manipulates the fundamental forces of the universe, Commander Veltar reported. Their defensive grid controls gravity itself, and their weapons operate in dimensions we cannot even detect properly. How advanced would a civilization need to be to develop such technology? Zixthon asked. Centuries ahead of us, at minimum. Possibly millennia. The Admiral absorbed this information with growing dread. The Cathari Empire had encountered hundreds of alien species, but none had ever displayed technology this far beyond their understanding. The humans were not just another primitive world to be conquered. They were a force that could potentially challenge the Empire itself. Sir, his communications officer interrupted, we're receiving priority transmissions from 12 different ships in the fleet. All of them are requesting permission to broadcast formal apologies to the human vessel. Zixthon stared at his officer in shock. Apologies? Yes, Admiral. Captain Mordex of the heavy cruiser Worldbreaker has composed what he calls a message of respect for worthy opponents. Captain Silvana of the destroyer Deathbringer has requested permission to send tribute offerings to demonstrate the fleet's acknowledgement of human superiority. The Admiral realized that his worst fears were coming true. His fleet was not just retreating in defeat. They were preparing to beg for forgiveness from the species they had come to conquer. Tell them to maintain silence until we are out of human space, he ordered, but he could hear the weakness in his own voice. On the USS Defiant, Communications Officer Hayes detected the growing chatter among the alien ships. Captain, the aliens are trying to send us messages. Multiple ships are attempting to open communication channels. What kind of messages? Hayes listened to the translations for a moment before answering. Surrender offers, sir. Formal submissions. Some of them are offering to provide intelligence about other alien fleets in exchange for safe passage. Morrison felt a mix of satisfaction and concern. The aliens were clearly defeated, but their eagerness to cooperate suggested that news of this encounter would spread quickly through the galaxy. Weapons Officer Ryan Cole monitored the tactical situation as more alien ships restored power. Captain, should we escort them out of the solar system? No, Mr. Cole. Let them leave on their own. We've made our point. Dr. Sullivan continued analyzing the bio readings from the alien crews. Sir, I'm detecting some interesting patterns in their stress responses. They're not just afraid of our weapons. They seem genuinely confused by our behavior. How so? In their experience, superior military power is always used for conquest. They can't understand why we're letting them go instead of demanding their surrender and submission. Morrison smiled slightly. Maybe that's the most important lesson we can teach them. Admiral Zix then watched the final ships in his fleet restore enough power for faster-than-light travel. In 6 hours, the most powerful military force in Cathari history had been reduced to a collection of damaged ships fleeing from a single enemy vessel. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, all ships are ready for departure. Zixthon took one last look at the human ship on his display. The USS Defiant remained in position, neither pursuing nor threatening, simply watching their retreat with calm confidence. Signal the fleet, he ordered. We are leaving human space immediately. All ships will maintain communication silence until we reach the outer marker. As the Cathari fleet prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Zixthon knew that his military career was effectively over. He would return home to face questions about how he had allowed a single enemy ship to defeat 47 Cathari warships without sustaining any damage. But he also knew something else. The story of this defeat would spread throughout the galaxy, and with it would come a new understanding of what humanity represented. The humans were not just another species with advanced technology. They were something far more dangerous. Civilization with the power to destroy their enemies, but the wisdom to choose mercy instead. 6 months after the encounter with the Cathari fleet, Captain Morrison stood in his ready room aboard the USS Defiant, reading reports that would have seemed like science fiction just a year ago. The galaxy had changed, and humanity was at the center of that change. Lieutenant Commander Hayes entered with the latest communication from Deep Space Station Alpha. Captain, we have 7 new requests for diplomatic contact. 3 more alien civilizations want to establish trade relations with Earth. Morrison looked up from his desk. That makes 15 species that have contacted us since the Cathari incident. What do these new ones want? The Vexari Confederation is offering advanced medical technology in exchange for protection from Cathari expansion. The Quilorian Trade Union wants to establish shipping routes through human space. The third one is interesting. The Zareth Assembly is requesting military advisors to help them develop defensive strategies. Morrison shook his head in amazement. They want us to teach them how to fight? Apparently, sir. Word has spread that we defeated the Cathari without destroying them, and everyone wants to know how we did it. The captain walked to his window, looking out at the 3 new ships that had joined the Defiant on patrol duty. The USS Valiant, USS Resolute, and USS Guardian were identical to his vessel, each one crewed by carefully selected officers who understood the responsibility that came with such advanced technology. Dr. Kate Sullivan's voice came through the intercom. Captain, please report to the medical bay. We have some interesting data to review. Morrison made his way through the ship's corridors, passing crew members who nodded respectfully as he walked by. These men and women had become legends. Without realizing it, their actions 6 months ago had fundamentally changed humanity's position in the galaxy. In the medical bay, Dr. Sullivan was analyzing biometric data on her computer displays. Captain, I've been studying the psychological profiles of the alien species that have contacted us. There's a pattern emerging. What kind of pattern? They're all species that have been threatened by expansionist empires like the Cathari. But here's the interesting part. None of them tried to contact us until after our encounter with Admiral Zixthon. Morrison studied the data she showed him. They were waiting to see how we handled our first contact with a hostile force. Exactly. And our decision to show mercy instead of destroying the Cathari fleet sent a message throughout the galaxy. We're seen as powerful enough to defeat anyone, but civilized enough to be trusted. The captain considered this information. Any word on what happened to Admiral Zixthon? Intelligence reports suggest he was stripped of his command but allowed to live. Apparently he's been telling his story in taverns and meeting halls across Cathari space. The official Empire response is that he's a disgrace, but privately, Military commanders are taking his warnings about human capabilities very seriously. Chief. Engineer Danny Ross entered the medical bay with a tablet full of technical data. Captain, I thought you should see the latest reports from our deep space monitoring stations. Morrison took the tablet and reviewed the information. 3 Cathari survey fleets changed course to avoid human space? Yes, sir. They've declared our entire region off limits to military vessels. Any Cathari ship that gets within 50 light-years of Earth has orders to retreat immediately. Dr. Sullivan smiled. It seems our reputation is spreading faster than we anticipated. Morrison's communicator buzzed with an incoming message from Earth. Captain Morrison, this is Admiral Peterson. Please report to Earth Command immediately. For briefing on the Galactic Council situation. The captain looked at his officers with surprise. Galactic Council? This is the first I've heard of any Galactic Council. Intelligence Officer Greg Walsh entered the medical bay with a folder marked Top Secret. Actually, sir, that's what I came to brief you about. We've just received a formal invitation from something called the Galactic Council. Apparently, it's a governing body made up of the most advanced civilizations in this part of space. Morrison opened the folder and began reading. The documents inside were unlike anything in human diplomatic history. They want Earth to join as a member species, he said slowly. Yes, sir. Based entirely on how we handled the Cathari situation. According to their message, the Council has been observing our first contact protocols and they're impressed with what they call our demonstrated wisdom and restraint in the face of aggression. Dr. Sullivan read over Morrison's shoulder. Captain, look at this list of member species. These are some of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, and they want us to join them as equals. Morrison felt the weight of history pressing down on him. 6 months ago, humanity had been alone in the universe, wondering if they would ever encounter alien life. Now they were being invited to join a galactic government. Navigator Amy Clark's voice came through the intercom. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the USS Guardian. Captain Stevens reports contact with an unknown vessel requesting permission to enter human space. Morrison made his way back to the bridge, where the main screen showed another alien ship. This one was different from the Cathari vessels. Smaller, sleeker, and decorated with symbols that seemed to indicate peaceful intent. Captain Morrison, came a transmission from the alien vessel. I am Ambassador Cathala of the Galactic Council. I have come to formally extend our invitation for humanity to join the Council as a full member species. Morrison looked around at his bridge crew. These were the same people who had faced down an entire alien armada 6 months ago. Now they were witnessing humanity's entry into galactic civilization. Ambassador, this is Captain Morrison. On behalf of humanity, I welcome you to our space. The alien ambassador's image appeared on screen. Unlike the aggressive Cathari, this being had a calm, dignified appearance that suggested centuries of diplomatic experience. Captain, your species has demonstrated something that the galaxy has not seen in many generations. The wisdom to use great power responsibly. The Council believes that humanity has much to offer the galactic community. Morrison thought about the long journey that had led to this moment. Ambassador, what exactly does membership in the Council involve? Participation in galactic governance, access to advanced technologies, and the opportunity to help maintain peace among the member species. In return, we ask only that you continue to demonstrate the same principles you showed in your encounter with the Cathari Empire. Lieutenant Commander Hayes worked at her communication station, recording everything for transmission to Earth. This conversation would be studied by historians for generations. Morrison made the decision that would define humanity's future among the stars. Ambassador, I am honored to accept your invitation on behalf of the human species. We look forward to working with the Council to build a peaceful galaxy. As the alien ambassador smiled and began discussing the formal procedures for joining the Council, Morrison reflected on how much had changed. The encounter with Admiral Zixthan had begun as humanity's first test of survival in a hostile galaxy. Instead, it had become the foundation for their emergence as a respected member of galactic civilization. The stars no longer seemed threatening. They had become humanity's new neighborhood, and Earth was about to take its place as one of the galaxy's leading voices for peace and justice. In his final log entry of the day, Morrison wrote, "Today, humanity officially joined the galactic community. We learned that our greatest strength was never our technology, but our ability to choose compassion over conquest. The universe is vast and full of wonders, and we will explore it not as conquerors, but as neighbors committed to the principles that define us as human beings." The legend of the day an alien fleet begged humans for mercy had become the foundation myth of humanity's golden age among the stars.